Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It's time for the final match of day one for EMEA here at the GLL Apex Legends series. My name is Parna. I'm still joined by Glitter Explosion and Onset. So far, 5 matches with 5 different winners. Will we see a repeat winner in the 6th and final match of the day? I can't wait to find out.
Honestly, what do you think? Because I don't know that we will. I was just talking about it a little bit with Paula, and I feel like the skill right now is pretty evenly matched across the board, which is why we're seeing so many different teams able to pull out a win.
I would say across the 12 games that we're going to have,
we have to, right?
No, just
12?
today.
But that's me copping out, and you beat me to it. Yeah, that's me copping out. But do you know what? I'm gonna put it on the line here. I think we will see a repeat winner purely because we are seeing very similar teams hit that end circle. In my opinion, we have Reciprocity. They've been super consistent, right? We've had LG super consistent. We've had a team in Wizen who are super consistent, but they don't quite make it out. VP have been there a few times. The same teams seem to be getting into those positions to win games. So why not? I'm going to say it. Because I'm one of those guys. I don't sit on the fence, Parla.
No, I mean, there's not a fence here to sit on.
What's the point?
In fact, we don't have a fence. You could maybe perch on the end of this, but it's unlikely. I'm just going to do a quick impression of Wraith behind me and try and, you know, like, channel some of that energy, because I feel like that
broody energy, that like...
It has an actual name. It's a dark rift energy.
The rift energy.
The rift energy. Which team has the highest likelihood of capturing that energy in this final match? I feel like I've got a couple of LG fanboys on the desk.
No, I was just going to say Rec.
Okay, Rec.
I was just going to say Rec only because I feel like Rec is playing a little bit safer.
Okay.
Not in a bad way, just they've got a more conservative playstyle where they aren't putting themselves in situations that are forcing them to push through teams the same way that LG does. Now, LG's been very successful with it, but you also see at the end game there against Rec how risky it can potentially be.
Onset, any wild cards that you'd like to throw in there? Oh, I see.
The problem is now, the problem is that I said that one team's going to repeat it, so I can't then go with the wild card. You know what I mean? I've got to be true to my word.
Well, let's say you never said that in the first place, right? Just pick a random wild card. Don't say potatoes.
Don't say potatoes. Oh, come on, man.
Okay, you can go with potatoes.
I'm going to go with Wizen. Because they've got towards that end game a lot, but they haven't closed out. I've said it about 1,000 times so far. So I've said it, what, 5 times, because we have 5 games. But they keep getting there. They just need to close out one of those games. Is it a wild card pick? Probably not, because they keep getting towards that end game. But if I'm being honest here, I can see one of Reciprocity or LG potentially closing out a second game here in a second win. I'm going to go with LG. Just because it's different to what you're saying.
He's just playing devil's advocate right now,
of course.
You know?
Either way, at the end of this match, I think we're going to have a relatively good picture about who has a good shot at winning first place for EMEA. Because if you're not in that top, 6 to 10, you're really going to need some perfect results and also some unfortunate circumstances for the people you're going up against. What do you guys think about that?
I don't disagree with that at all. I think... Or actually, maybe I do a little bit. Hold on. There is the possibility for something that we talked about earlier, for some of those teams who are in the lower half of the bracket, to just go, like, all out.
Full aggro.
Start changing their drops, start W-keying other teams, and just really make an effort to... Even if it puts them at a disadvantage, if it also puts the team that they're currently trying to fight at a disadvantage, it takes away their ability to continue accruing those points, putting themselves in a better place on the list.
I just see, what's the point in coming in last if you're not going to try and pick up points to push yourself up the table,
exactly.
Right? Like, what's the point? It's not working for you at the moment. I know a lot of people will be like, oh, you can't do that. You know what I mean? Like, you can't harass some other teams on their drop who are, like, very comfortable on it. It's like, this is tournament play. Do you know what I mean? Nobody is remembering how you won a tournament. Nobody remembers the way that you won tournaments. It's all about the fact that you won a tournament or you placed this in a tournament. We can have that conversation after if it's, like, gentlemanly or sportsmanship or whatever you want to talk about. Yeah. But if you have to pick up points, you have to find ways that are going to allow you to pick up those points. That means kills. That means placement. And if there are teams that are hovering on those prize pool placements, you got to start targeting them because they're the ones that you got to knock down. Yeah,
well, we mentioned it at the start of the show, and it will be definitely interesting to see if any cheekiness comes out from any of our teams. Everybody, it's time for the final match of day one here for the EMEA region at the GLL Apex Legends series. Let's get our casters involved, Dreadnought and Bravo, to take things away.
Hey, thanks so much, Paula, Glitter, and Onset for breaking down everything as always. Now, one match left here for Europe, Dread, and you and I are looking at the table. Pretty telling story in terms of scoring disparity between the top of the table and the bottom of the table.
Yeah, there's a pretty significant gap when looking at 4 kind of onward and a slow dissension down until 10th. And it sits about a 7 to 10 point gap sitting from 4th into the rest of them. But to give you an idea of how dominant those top 4 teams are, even just the top 3 are over double 10th place. So like, considering that they're over double the entire bottom half of even the best of the bottom half is actually crazy to show how dominant they are. And I think it's been something that our analyst has been talking about. We have seen basically, for the most part, the same names showing up at those back circles.
We really have, yeah. And really, we had zones pretty much in different corners, right? You can't really say that's because it's pulling a certain way and teams are getting lucky rotations.
Yeah,
I think we've seen consistency, whether it's good or bad, on both sides of the table.
Yeah, that's a really good point that you bring up, because I think was being the first time that we're getting competitive World's Edge look has been basically whether or not those bottleneck areas of the map are severe enough that they would deter the better team, right? Is there a moment where the strategy is just you cannot overcome that element? And I would say, you know, if anything, it would be argued inverse right now, is we have more consistency on World's Edge than we ever did on Kings Canyon.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the case for Europe so far, of course. 1 game yet to play for them, and still all 6 games for North America to come after that. Going to be a long night here in Stockholm, but we are here for one reason, and it's to have some, like you said, the premiere of competitive gameplay, not only on World's Edge, but with a lot of new updates coming to the game. And you know, North America, I think they've mostly woken up. It's, I think, almost 5 p.m. Eastern.
I'm still stuck in the void, like not only for local time, but I don't know local time, let alone back home. I got no idea.
Right. I think at this time, even on the most severe gamer schedules, we're starting to see the West Coast.
Have you ever seen pro gamer schedule?
I have, actually. I have. And now that I look at the time on the East Coast, there's a lot of pro gamers who haven't woke up on the West Coast yet. Without a doubt. Without a doubt. It might still be a bit early. But wherever you're joining us from, let us know in the chat where you're tuning in from. We know all across the world, of course, Apex with a fantastic scene in so many different corners of the globe. We thank you so much for joining us here for game number 6 of the EMEA GLL Apex Legends series. This is going to be the last match for Europe. North America still to come today. And we're starting things off with the champions of the last game. It's going to be Reciprocity EU.
Going with the Skyhook. A long stretch here from what was it looked like a very northeastern to southwest kind of drop. Very reminiscent of the same dropship that I believe we got in, it was game number 2, the one where I was highlighting the amount of information that should have gone over on the drop patterns when looking at Luminosity. But Reciprocity looking like they're getting at least this subsection of Skyhook here to themselves, and finding a scout that early has got to be a good look here for the squad.
Yes, indeed. Also, it harkens back, Dread, to the question of, is Luminosity going to be knocked off of their split drop that we saw right away in game number 1. We started off the tournament with that, and the standings would suggest that absolutely not. They have not been shoved off of that. They have not been denied 2 high-tier loot zones, and they're sitting in first with 53 points.
So we've been talking about split drops when looking at Luminosity, but now we've got a bit of a different one, and this is actually... I don't want to say it's as rare or as bold of one, because it's the first time we've gotten to really see that as even an option, right? And that was a 2-train drop, with the rest dropping at Skyhook, knowing that Skyhook is going to be the first train station stop for that train itself. So yes, that is still a split drop, but number 1, not as beneficial, and number 2, still not being those major points of interest. But a big win there when looking at Reciprocity, and a tone setter here for their final game for today.
We just saw Kick down at Dome, already an unsurprising early Devo grab for them. Likely going to hold on to that and put in a few prayers with the Apex gods to find a turbo to throw on.
Yeah, and that was something that, you know, we were talking with Snipedown before, though he isn't competing in this tournament, and we know a Devotion lover. He was talking about he thinks that is more viable, more priority maybe now than ever. And at least when looking at Europe, it's very much heavily been that trend.
Definitely a weapon that we, at the top of the show, did not necessarily outline. We talked about the Scout, and we talked about weapons that we expected not to see, but the Devotion's certainly been a consistent theme today.
Yeah, and that was something I talked about a little bit about earlier, right? Because if you were to look at like what actually happened to the Devotion, outside of having more magazine opportunities overall with the extended energy mag becoming an item available, not really anything. It's very much been the impact of everything else around it. That being said, having a gun that shoots at such an insane rate and then increasing the ammo capacity, it definitely hasn't hurt the weapon. Only been able to benefit it a little bit more. Again, still hinging heavily on that turbocharger.
Yeah, and we did just get a look at Luminosity. We did see them once again going epicenter to Refinery as they're able to continue to get a pretty darn good loot path and then head down into the map with presumably a ton of options at the very least. You know that the numbers are on their side in terms of likelihood of getting some pretty good loot. And then from there, of course, from that corner of the map, they can really choose if they want to go straight south, straight through epicenter, or even like we saw last game, move along the northern side.
Looking at Zor here, one interesting thing I saw that they were doing a little bit earlier, or in the last group that we saw, being willing to ping a hammer point, which has not been, you know, was introduced at the exact same time as the Disruptor rounds, but actually survived through Season 3. But the weaponry, you know, with it, not as high as a priority. And I think a lot of people, at least when looking at original hammer point, was said, you know, that's the accent to the Disruptor. You Disruptor into hammer point, right? Not too many people willing to risk things like the P2020 and Mozambique still for that hammer point. But it is extremely effective still. In those really niche circumstances where you can find that shieldless target, it's oh so very good. Something that I can't help but feel like if Crypto was maybe a bit more relevant in the meta, we'd see some more hammer points.
Certainly, yeah. Now taking a look, and you have to think that Reciprocity EU is continuing to move west because they don't want to take Skyhook Pass if they don't want to, but I might actually stand corrected here, and they might try to take the choke and see if they can get through it.
This is interesting. The no-go zone here of the train yard, we got ourselves a battle. High ground positioning here for...
This is Brotato's side, and already, you already see a thirst there coming in for... Barkhadi needs to be careful. Now Anarchy with some top control, only a white on him, and very exposed.
One thing to keep in mind though is Pathfinder's probably one of the best to deal with this situation as long as the kills aren't, or the shots aren't too concerning. He's one of the only guys who can go down, pick up that banner, and then grapple back up or zip onto those high grounds. He just has more train yard capabilities than most characters.
And look at this here, already sitting up top, and in between a ton of action. We haven't actually seen anyone set up on this Fuel Depot choke, generally because it does have access to so many different sightlines here. As they're popping shots into Capital City, also have a portal down to the northern side of Depot as well.
Yeah, I would say the only thing that's weird about it is the time, right? It's so early in the game. This is actually a great positioning round 3 when you have the edge, you know, fighting one side, or maybe
gatekeep Depot.
Exactly, yeah. But it's more so the Cooler and the squad that they were willing to post up there, knowing that they have Na'Vi looking at construction, which is, even if you didn't know Na'Vi was there, somebody will. It's Capital City. It is literally this as focal point for a majority of these teams, and definitely when looking at the loot tables. But
now they can look here at Samsung Morning Stars. Things quiet for them as they're playing more of an edge here right now. Currently sitting high ground. And also going ahead and maybe looking at pings, looking at which way they want to make it towards the center. This is kind of the dilemma we talk about often for teams that have to push from the south. There's only a small number of chokes. Right now, eyes on this Depot open field as the teams do push further to the north. They also have to decide which choke they want to take in as well.
Said we gotta rotate here.
Let's go this way.
Here, listen to the conversation for just a moment of which area they want to take, and it looks like they are going to try to maybe go all the way towards Mine Pass instead of Depot.
I think it makes a lot of sense considering the team that they just ended up seeing. Look at this, Rez coming through at the train yard itself. There was armor underneath there. No, he missed for a second there, but ends up getting himself Devotion. Nice pickup. Charge rifle opportunity. First time we're going to get it. Got ourselves a longbow. We don't need that.
Really have not seen much charge rifle today, and now that zip is straight up. Brotato's going for it. We'll see if they can hold this top train car.
Oh my goodness, and that was a charge rifle that shot him.
There it is.
I was going to say, if that charge rifle fully connected, that actually would have been a knock. So just a couple of those, you know, pre-fire ticks actually missing.
Brotato's trying to squeak out some points here. Keep in mind they are, I believe, currently sitting in 20th, if I'm not mistaken. No, excuse me, they're in 19th place here, so just trying to hold on for dear life.
And even though you see the Watson generator come out, and they're going to be able to hold their own for a little bit, I can't help but feel like if I'm in their situation, we need to counter-rotate to any other direction as soon as possible. And I know it's putting you in the back foot, but even though they're going to reset and hit the pause button, I feel like it's just a pause button, and that's a big problem.
As we cut their Luminosity gaming, I'm kind of imagining some light acoustic music, just really relaxing music for them.
Like Phil Collins or something?
From them up in Epicenter. They're still chilling. They're still just grabbing a little bit extra loot, and they're doing just fine up there. They're slowly going to make their rotation in. It seems to be too often the tale for LG, as they've had, once again, just free reign of that northeast corner. The one thing I'm going to look for tomorrow, starting with match 7 in Europe, is are we still going to see them own that part of the map? I think we might see some teams give them a little more pressure tomorrow, but time will only tell.
I want to look you in the eyes and say I agree, but I'm willing to tell you that I'm now at the point where I've seen enough of no one has deviated on drops or threat that I'm at the point where it's like, though I still think it's strategically the way to play. I'm just at the point where it's like, who's going to be the one to do it?
How many teams in the lobby do you think, if we talk about 20, are absolutely aware they're getting that split drop?
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. But I don't know. It could be the information, but in my mind, again, we've had 2 drops this game and second that should have shown you that.
A solo refinery.
It should have shown you that there's some kind of solo play coming out from that.
Now taking a look, still 19 squads left in this game as we once again check in here with the guys here on the ridge. It's going to be the VP side. But they got some company at the ridge, and this is the first time, really, we've actually seen a battle here. This is an area that you do expect to see some major engagements in, but it really will depend on exactly how the circles have gone, and nothing has forced things to the ridge due to how early we're seeing teams rotate in Europe.
This is going to be an interesting moment for VP. They saw the full portal just looping around that left-hand side through that choke up there. Do you push this back into the portal while you think you have a momentary advantage, or do you wait it out that entire duration?
Looks like maybe going, not sure just yet. They do get a beacon there.
As it's such a scary final circle, too. If it ends on construction in the buildings, very difficult to be able to win that battle. If it doesn't, it is absolutely out in the open, and it's actually a sniper circle if it doesn't on the outskirts.
So if I'm not mistaken, this is Samsung Morningstars now has all the way gotten through those chokes that we saw earlier, now in train, and now deciding exactly where they need to go, but shots coming in from that northern side of train, they need to be careful.
Very good, very good. I need size to remember. I have only 2 right now.
Portal out. Here we go. Good use of the iframe, using it in the only time that it could be in line of sight.
Wall bounces just for a little bit extra there.
I respect that.
I like it. Now going to place it in the safe area near the pills. Should certainly have gotten them out of any trouble, and now they can get their way into Capital City. They're going to slowly check right away that low ground just to see if anyone is angling themselves away from Capital City as well.
Yeah, this is a pretty rare loadout for Lazarus, but this is one of those moments where, again, based on the landscape that we get for this potential final circle, even if it's on construction, I don't mind that because the longbow and long-range weapons are threatening into Capital City in all circumstances until that very, very end circle. And in theory, one of those kills you get should have a weapon that would be more effective within that range. So I want to see teams focus on that a little bit more. Again, another 301 here from Nighty, actually, finding himself the anvil, so very threatening.
And they're going to try to lock down here in tunnel. So certainly a wide space, but they've got the right angles, and with the right fences, they can make it happen potentially. And of course, going to get their gen up as well. I want to also talk about that gen that we did see up on the fuel depot choke. And it's a great angle, right? No one really has elevation that can shoot that down from the depot side, so they should be safe. Unless someone, the only angle I could think of was if someone were to balloon up to that kind of outer environment top depot expo, then you'd have a good angle.
Yeah.
But that's really about it.
This is Samsung's glance into that same tunnel, zoning them out on the other side. And this is part of the area that I was talking about and why that sniper is so effective, looking into those versus looking out, and then so much of that territory. And then, as you were talking about, this leads into that same choke just on that northern end here towards Cooler, which we're taking their glance at. And this next circle will force them down and really force the battling and the outskirts of whoever isn't in Capital City. The next circle will determine if everybody needs to be into Capital City or if they're going to kind of move under.
I'm wondering what the situation here. You see Jazz is just leaving his shield so low. You finally see Xkafu pops the Phoenix, but you have to wonder just, I mean, now as they're taking a lot of damage, they need to be careful. Finally, some cells are going to go. I think there may be some trading of some bats in a moment, but they're playing with fire there a bit.
Yeah,
challenging angles.
And you could see him in the loot, and then he says something, I need something, but that was definitely interesting. I don't know the thought process behind it right away. I mean, there could be an argument of, well, that wasn't the team looking at me, so I can take that risk. It's time sensitive to get these shots, and that's what I need to do right now, but it does feel to be in a one-shot, one-kill for actually quite a few weapons at that point in time.
Yeah.
At not too far of a distance. So, yeah, a little high risk, low reward there.
Definitely. But looks like they do get away with it, and that's why they are in the tournament. And you and I are here on the desk now, popping some more heals is the Reciprocity EU side. And once again, still has not shielded up is Jazz and finally dropping down.
Oh,
popping some extra shots as well.
That's going to be a very difficult time for them to actually push down. This is the other side of the battle. It's Lazarus moving their way through that fuel depot. All of them ended up surviving. Post-kill sitting very low. Only Syringes to be able to heal him up. Cooler, as we see Xkafu managed to be able to get rezzed up. Same with Jazz. Once again, Jazz towing that line with his shielding, as you already highlighted. And this is another circumstance where the question is why.
I'm still wondering.
So there is an argument to some extent, too, of like what is the value of the Gibraltar shield with the 75 bonus going to trade up compared to his normal armor. But again, I would go, well, why wouldn't you just want both of those resources?
Yeah, it seems like really just looking at that sell economy and not wanting to spend at all costs. Finally pops just one, but Kashera tries to hold on. Lazarus will go down at the bottom of that choke.
And somehow Cooler actually managed to hold on to this, what felt like a very dire circumstance here. The bubble goes down, the res opportunity, see if anybody manages to push in. Xcafu kind of zoning off there and healing up in his downtime, and quite a bit of loot available now for Cooler.
Yeah, they don't spend the shields, they get the swaps, and they even grab more cells through that. So that's probably the first time I've seen that much kind of towing the line, as you said, Dread, with the shields in pretty high intensity and high action plays.
Yeah, and even considering the boldness of the positioning based on the time, I think all of those elements combined lead to a whole lot of, my goodness, some confidence here being streamed. But it's working out here for now for Cooler. That being said, somebody took their old residence here over that choke and are trying to threaten down on top of them. Gibraltar ultimate coming down. Battery out here for Jazz. Seems like they got a single knock there as you hear the comms come out. Seems like they would look for a push. Arcstar
should be good to cover the back of that. A little bit of damage and also great scout shots coming in as well.
To be honest, the fact that he was able to hit with that Arcstar, then pop 36, I'm actually amazed that that target survived even as long as it did, bringing some moments of concern here. But either way, the other side here, we've got Na'Vi making their way through their tunnel, coming over from the train yard. This is Na'Vi, I believe, was the team who owned train yard that we saw threatening everybody back, and now they're trying to keep continuing what they already had started there, but now more towards Capital City.
Yeah, we should talk about that pull. It has certainly pulled towards the building. There's a little bit of uncertainty there. If it'll instead pull more towards tunnel, more towards tracks and that open low ground, but it has indeed pulled right on that southwesternmost building where things are really going to start to focus. Construction is still in just a bit, but it looks like things are going to go more towards that southwestern building.
And this is where you could, where I would make the argument of, I was talking about the 301s, the longbows, and maybe that interest. It's not true anymore. That final construction zone, once you make your way into that final circle, it's all about the R99s, the Peacekeepers, and dealing with that. That being said, it's still going to be useful on your transformation kind of inward towards construction.
Keep in mind, someone likely has construction right now, depending on the... Actually, we see...
I mean, Na'Vi just made his way on.
And now you have to wonder if they're going to grab that beacon as well, which could be pretty darn helpful as well.
Oh, man, what a great portal. Only 2 people of Na'Vi actually, though, alive here in this game. That's a major setback considering the positional advantage that they kind of have here. Virtus Pro.
Especially as long as that portal's up. If someone does zip up, they will fly almost unavoidably because they're not going to know that blind corner into that portal as well.
And so this is what we're going to see a lot of. That roster that we just saw there, Virtus Pro, is actually on the ground floor here of Na'Vi. This is a 4-level building, but with the roof, the floor, and then 2 sitting in between. Actually, maybe even 3 in between. Either way, whatever, I'm misremembering. Either way, there can be so many people existing in this home.
And it's super interesting because we have other buildings here on the map that have that number of levels. However, with the giant opening that runs through it, each level can engage each other in different ways. So it's going to be a really interesting battle, one that these teams will be very familiar with, but still quite a wild battle in the end as things do continue to converge. We'll see exactly which building it's going to end up on, or even if it only has a corner of one of them, as well as potentially just a little bit of open area as well. 12 squads left here.
Luminosity here trying to get their res. That was Kick who ended up getting the knock onto that. Some of our more successful teams here. That's first place taken on, third place here in overall points in the tournament in this battle. This Thermite could really destroy. Good placement, but not going to connect Arcstar. Maybe a different tail. Nope,
does not hit either. Looks like the team has moved or at least made sure to get out of the blast radius of both of those now. Kick does have the lower side of this building. We were talking about that. And take a look at that circle that you do see on your screen. It's just going to be the southern tip of the southwesternmost Capital City building. So we are going to see multi-level play absolutely through this next round.
Yeah, and it also is actually on the zip side of the building. So there's going to be a lot of weird kind of upward, downward battling going back and forth between those. This is the outside approach to this, right? This is going to be we are going to battle from the inside for Luminosity. And there's a pretty big concern point, because if you do want to approach this, normally it's with a Pathfinder in mind for a zip up to that high ground if you need for those late game decision making to flank onto somebody like Na'Vi. Clearly, compositionally, that's not available when looking at Luminosity.
Absolutely, and like you said, it's usually a very different circumstance for a team that's down there. This is the most extreme of circumstances, and they're going to need to be able to wrap around to the lower level to make anything happen.
Yeah, and excuse me, they were sitting one building off, but either way, it's whoever's on the top, it's going to be a major problem, and I think Luminosity and how they approach this, I'm really looking forward to see the creativity coming out from that roster. But Na'Vi enter the final circle for a second there, quickly make their way out.
Swap there for 90s there.
They will walk up, they will walk up, they will walk up. Careful.
They're going to be careful. Of course, that zip could mean certain death. Lots of things waiting on every level at this stage with 11 squads still left here as things are starting to thin out.
They can't go through that portal, and if they do so, having that Watson trap into the fully charged Peacekeeper feels like it's the beginning of the end. Kick there, though. End up losing the generator. Reciprocity on the outskirts, trying to take an outward approach as well, but actually only one of them surviving. Gibraltar, the only one available.
I think they're gonna take it.
Samsung Morning Stars here also fighting into construction, trying to get any picks they can of anyone trying to fall through, playing that hard edge of zone.
That team in construction, though, has so many people looking at them. It's not like this is the only roster actually going to be glancing. Samsung is just on the middle tier, right? We should have somebody on the ground floor and definitely on the high ground taking a glance over. Arcstar is going to be well placed, should connect there with the second target. Meanwhile, Luminosity...
They're wondering, what's all this noise about?
Yeah, they're like, we're just hanging on the outside. What are you guys doing? Also, keep in mind that Luminosity, whether or not they're aware of it or not, that final circle is actually not on the construction itself. It actually moves one section outward, so they're in a grand position to be able to post up and already make that decision, as well with here Virtus Pro kind of skirting their way through on the outskirts.
Not too far off either. They're able to get the heals off, everyone healing at once, and they've got just enough cover to make that happen, and we'll be fully healed in just a moment. Once we do see this Phoenix finish for PJ, some extra shots there coming out of Taylor with the wing. Wing 99 going to be feeling good. Purple armor across the board, but it's Ksania with that gold armor from the bottom. They're still trying to make something happen, and they're going to have an option to portal out, certainly. Still an option, and probably what they're banking on to make the last move in here.
Yeah, this is a wild situation, and I think just quickly to highlight it before we get to the closing of this next circle, if you own the high ground, everybody has to move in front of you, and you're going to be able to threaten them, but you're also one of the fastest areas to get threatened by the zone itself. You can only take 4 ticks before you're going to get knocked at this point in time, which basically means you can only take 1 tick of damage before throwing the entirety of the back end of this game. So do you hold on to that high ground and chip away, or do you take that commitment before? And if you do so, Luminosity is just sitting there.
They are, and the only thing I think that's saving Luminosity right now is whoever has roof will get challenged if they peek directly down by a team like VP, who is on kind of the high ground towards tracks.
Yes.
So Luminosity has to be thinking that there's a team that's just above them towards that high ground beyond those rocks that is helping them really stay and avoid all these angles. But now you see a team like this that's well aware that Luminosity is downstairs.
They have to drop on the outside, and that should be Luminosity getting an easy cleanup there. They see them end up moving through, but now they're setting their focus over to Virtus Pro. The ultimate already coming out there for the Gibraltar. Bubble goes down. We don't know whether or not that was Exons or, in fact, Virtus Pro on the other side, but it looks like it may be a battle between them. Yes, there are 6 squads, but they have the positioning. They have the advantage. They have the weaponry.
VP still sitting good. PJ's taking lots of damage, though.
Wait a minute.
Look at Taylor now. He's going to go down. VP all go down. Now look at Castagna here. Just gold shield, purple shield across the board. No damage being taken at all. Still, Castagna with that Devo. Another knock for him.
Yeah, Limek actually was the one threatening that, and that was a good cleanup there. It ends up having to reload, swapping back over to the wingman. Good shots coming out from them, but
they get it.
Had to have been close. Clean play from Luminosity, and they get the win.
And what a way to cement day number 1. They came into that game in first place, 53 points on the board, and now they leave no doubt that they will close out day number 1 with the first place. And that's, once again, Luminosity, they're stealing the show. We see it time and time again.
Yeah.
And we talk about them being dealt a certain hand and playing it excellently. And right there, you see them. They don't have the comp to get out of the southernmost tip of that building.
Yeah.
In the end, they had to know there were teams above once again because they weren't seeing any opposition from the roof. And just like that, they're able to make the smart play. You saw 2 bubbles down. And when we saw Virtus Pro absolutely get melted, third-partied obviously as well.
Yeah.
Cut back to Luminosity, hasn't taken a tick of damage the whole time.
Yeah, the patience displayed there by Luminosity. You got to wonder how much information they had on like that battle having to happen, because it was almost like just perfectly calculated. The transition moving in for that third party, it seems like they had almost everything going for them. That being said, I wasn't confident they were going to close that out. Like, I thought they were clever with their positioning on the outside of that building, but with that high ground team being able to look down, I thought we were going to see the same thing as last time. Clever decision-making Luminosity, but there's too much to handle here.
Right, and in the end, I think it was a little bit of also the fact that the third parties did come in the way they did. They had their bubble to kind of cover them, and they're able to do it. In the studio, Paula Glitter and Onset, your thoughts on that game number 6 for Europe?
Fantastic performance by LG, I think. Bravo. What was the key to victory for them in this final match? I'd love to get the opinions of all of you.
Yeah, I think just from our side, I think what we saw once again was the patience and the consistency from them.
I think if I would say anything that like is my one, not only just why they won, but the characteristic of Luminosity, it's They were great individually before, but now they've learned when they just need to blindly be a team. And when they do, they make unwinnable fights become very, very winnable.
Yeah, what about you guys?
After you.
Well,
I mean, okay, so we were arguing a little bit watching this go down, trying to decide if they needed to stay a little bit longer or they needed to push out, because I felt like they needed to push out before everybody dropped down on them, and you felt like they needed to wait, and they kind of did a hybrid.
Yeah, they did.
Of the two.
Yeah.
Which worked out really well for them.
It was very interesting to see LG. The thing that's really like the word that's kind of resonating with me when we've watched anything that LG has done is timing. Like the way that they time either a push or the decision to be made, or even towards the end there, the Gibby bubble. Like the Gibby bubble right at the end there, they did it after VP had been forced to pop theirs, meaning that they were going to have the protection from grenades, from the ability to fast heal and the ability to not be shot for the longest in that lobby towards the end circle. So little tiny things like that. Also, I think the fact that VP probably had the most advantageous position would have forced all of those teams that were coming out of the building above them to focus onto VP first. Because what do you do when you're looking for a spot, right, to rotate into a final circle? You're looking for the best spot to fight for if you're forced to fight to win that battle. The fact that LG were kind of in that secondary position, they could kind of just watch everything happening.
Yeah.
And with that time of that bubble, they managed to basically outlast the fact they could, again, fight last, and then they had the advantage because everyone else had done damage.
Yeah, I think all on the same page too, right? Castaña's just sitting in the open field with a thermite out, knowing that they can pop that Gibby bubble whenever they need to.
Yeah.
And you can see so much confidence. He tosses that thermite and just kind of comes back and knows that the bubble's going to come down. Onsite, you called it perfectly, though, that they were going to get kind of extra time as well and have the longer lasting dome in that scenario.
Exton's insane, actually. I don't think he's never Gibraltar first. I don't think I've seen a single initiation or anything that he is the first to do it. He always waits, you ult, and he's like, I got you right after, right? You bubble, and he counter bubbles. He's actually insane on the Gibraltar. I think he deserves a lot more credit than he's been given.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll let you guys run away with this and keep breaking it down.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Bravo and Dreadnought. Guys, if there was one thing that has stood out so far from our first 6 games of the night, what would it be?
The fact that I managed to predict that they were going to win again.
LG.
That's the most surprising, is that he was right.
Mr.
That's what
Smug face over at the end.
Hey, look.
Full teeth grin. God.
Okay,
So what I'm going to do is just going to smile down the camera. It's not very often I get to do that. So yeah, I was right.
Good. Congratulations, Glitter. What about yourself?
I think it's the fact that we now have a very good representation of just how useful Gibraltar is going to be throughout the entire weekend. I think we all were expecting a lot of the teams to use him, but I think pretty much all of the teams ended up using him. We thought there was going to be a little bit more of an even split between him and Pathfinder, and it seems like people are realizing specifically on this map just how useful all of his abilities are in that open end zone, which we actually have seen 5 out of the 6 games now.
Yeah,
it ended up being completely open.
Yeah, I mean, for me, what stood out the most is one of the points that you guys mentioned near the start of the show and that we've touched upon at different times, and that's about the compositions and also just how this new map plays with regards to how your team functions as a unit. Because we've seen, at least the impression I get from you guys, that some things that are different to what we'd usually see in competitive Apex.
I think one thing that I want to highlight as well that maybe we're not talking about enough is not just the fact that Gibby has his bubble and his ult, which are obviously super useful in open ground. If you are engaging in a battle across open ground, you want to be able to have the most HP as well. And that arm shield is so vital for you to peep out of your bubble, be able to take damage, be able to deal damage, and just, again, it's a battle royale. It's about surviving, right? If you have a character who can survive slightly longer, even with his huge, thick character model that we know that Gibby has, you know, it's still so useful if you have protection from that bubble to be able to peek out and shoot people. He has become almost, you know, the indispersible character that we're seeing being used now.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of that match, we saw multiple bubbles being popped that were absolutely indispensable to the victory that happened. Anyway, let's check out the scoreboard for match 6 for EMEA and then head on over to the scoreboard afterwards. As we know, it was Luminosity finishing on top, 20 points. Samsung Morningstars now with their highest placement yet in second, then Fnatic EU in third. Kick failing to continue any momentum that they've experienced over the course of the evening so far. Do you want to jump in there?
Yeah, just very interesting to see Samsung Morningstars. They were the team that were rotating behind Luminosity there. So they were kind of in that position. They could kind of watch everything happen in front of them and see all the damage being dealt. And again, that was the disadvantageous position that Virtus Pro found themselves in that end circle. Despite having the advantageous position, everyone was focusing on them, which means that Samsung Morningstars could move in behind LG, pick up a few kills and get a great placement.
I almost feel like rotating behind LG it's akin to rotating in like a dead pocket of like the BR. Like you're just like letting them clear the way for you, and you're just kind of safely following
kind of
the
walking
path.
along like that.
Yeah, right.
It's the equivalent of that.
Don't look at me, guys. Everything's fine back here. You know.
Let's see what our overall leaderboard looks like halfway through the competition for EMEA. It's Luminosity standing tall with a 16-point lead over Reciprocity in second place and Kick in third. I mean, Luminosity there with the pretty strong lead in terms of points. Then after that, we can see a relatively close point score between second and about 6th place. It's great to see that this is going to be a very competitive day two. No one completely running away with it yet. If we're looking at the bottom of the leaderboard, however, there are some teams that are maybe going to struggle to be in contention for the money.
I mean, I'm looking at Brotatoes. I just want to say this, they haven't heated up yet.
No.
However, we're only halfway through the day, halfway through the tournament, excuse me, so we have to remember that. They've got 6 games tomorrow. They'll come good, but I think there's a lot of teams who are placed well, and I think the opportunity for them to have these 6 games today and then have the opportunity to have a break, to go away, watch how they've played their games, watch what hasn't gone right, watch what has gone right and how other teams have performed and had success is a huge thing for them, because those teams who are placed in that top 10 still have a huge chance of, if they do their homework tonight and come back tomorrow with a little bit more experience under their belt on how those lobbies have played, then they could quite comfortably push themselves up that table.
Glitter?
I think the other thing to point out, too, is that we saw with Luminosity in this game, they just had 8 kills in this last game. They were able to secure, was it 9 kills in the game that ended in Geyser? So the reason they have such a wide margin right now is because they're combining that aggression with their placement. What the other teams can maybe take away from that is that maybe it's time to turn it up a little bit tomorrow and kind of start securing their own kills and really nailing down those points.
What can the teams that haven't had the best results so far today do to change things tomorrow? I mean, surely it's going to be a bit of a switch up for some of them, and it might be uncomfortable, but you need to do that if you're not currently getting the results that you want on set.
I think for some of maybe the qualifying teams who have come from the kill race aspect of it, I think what they need to focus on doing is rotating early and just being a little bit more patient. Because if you're going in towards the end zone, there's always the opportunity for teams rotating in for you to pick up kills. So it's not getting thirsty for kills early on and taking a battle where if you lose that first fight and you haven't even rotated near end circle, you're not going to get placement points. You're not going to get kill points. There's no real point in taking that fight. Get to end zone, rotate as early as possible, and wait for the opportunity to pick up kills.
Glitter, final thoughts with you?
I kind of disagree with that. Yes. Because if you're really, really far down on the list at this point, safe gameplay isn't saving you. You're not getting anywhere with that. You've only got 6 more games to kind of like really make a statement for yourself and you know, making sure that you're not disturbing the teams who are sitting pretty is not the way to go about it.
Guys, it's been an absolute pleasure for this evening for me to be involved in Apex Legends. GLL putting on this amazing event, and we're only halfway through in terms of the EMEA region. However, that will be coming back tomorrow. For now, we'll be taking a bit more of an extended break before we head on over to NA. That's definitely something you do not want to miss. And I guess that's all that needs to be said for now. It's going to be at 1:45, so that's 12:45 CET. And on the west coast of the US, I think it's about 3:45 p.m.
I'm relying on you for that one.
Yeah, well, if I've done that correctly, we'll see you then. It's been a pleasure, and make sure you join us for the next part of the show.